Can you give Jesus a hand clap of praise this morning? He is worthy. He is worthy of praise. He really is. I got a little bit sort of a different kind of message to bring you, or at least the methodology of bringing the message this morning. So I hope that it speaks to your heart. In the next few weeks, which is summertime, we are in summertime, I'm going to be preaching a series of messages on rocks. You know, somewhere in the message it's going to have something about rocks in it. So I'm calling it our Summer Rock Series. Okay? You know, we may have to rock out a little bit more on the music, and for those of you that are old hippies, you don't really get into that, right? Amen. So if you're a young hippie, you might get into that. No, but God is our rock, and we're just going to minister along that line in the next few weeks. This morning, though, I want to share with you a message, and in this message, I'm going to share with you an illustration. Most of us know what rocks are. We understand rocks, and we know that rocks are good. But rocks can be annoysome if you're riding a lawnmower. Rocks are good if you're if you're at the creek or at the lake and you want to skip a rock. Sometimes we use the expression between the rocks and the hard place. But we all know what rocks are, don't we? You ever had anybody tell you were dumber than a rock? Don't receive that in Jesus' name. Don't receive that. But this morning I want to give you a little bit of an illustration. And as I give you this illustration, I want to share with you this is you. This is you. This is me. Look at that person next to you and say, "You're a fishbowl." You're a fishbowl. Now, in the sense of that fishbowl, that is you. I want you to think of this as you this morning. And as we begin to think about, there's certain things in our life that are important to us, or at least they should be important to us. I'm going to try to arrange them in somewhat proper order, descending value, if you would. But in one sense, this may be the largest one. I don't know. There's not much difference. But in this sense, this rock is God. This rock is God. God should be the most important thing in any of our lives. He just fits right into our life. And then there's perhaps our family. This rock is our family, and family, after God, family finds that place that it fits into our life. And then maybe then after family, we could start juggling them a bit there. Maybe our health. Maybe our health. And so we begin to fit our health into our life. Maybe after our health, let's say that then it's our job, our careers, our income, and we begin to fit that into our life, and then there's other things that come along in our life, like what could they be? Tell me some other things that's important to you guys. What's some friends? So we got friends that come along and they fit into our life. What's something else? Your church family. Did you say golf, Clint? Okay. Golf. Okay. What's some other things that's important to us in our life? Your children. That's already sort of family. What's something else? Pets. We begin to fit our pets into our life. And give me a couple other things real quickly. Automobiles. Our automobiles, as long as they're Chevrolets and not Fords. Okay. Give me one more. Travel. Maybe travel fills into your life, but then there's all kinds of other stuff, and then all that other stuff begins to pour into our lives. Maybe it's our kids' sports schedule. Maybe it's some club that we like, that we're a part of, and there's nothing wrong with those things like that. It could be all kinds of things begin to fit into our lives, and as we fit those things into our lives, and we begin to shake our lives out, and next thing we know, our lives have become full. Our lives have become very full. And as our lives become full, I want to preach to you this first message in the Rockin' Summer series, Do the Rocks Fit? Do the Rocks Fit? I want you to go to your Bibles, into one of the writings of the Apostle Paul. And the writing of the Apostle Paul in his writing to the Ephesian church, the church of Ephesus. In chapter 5, Paul says this. He says, be careful then how you live. Be careful how you live. In other words, Paul is saying to us, take regard to how we live. Be careful how you live then, not as unwise, but as wise. And notice 16 is not the end of a sentence. Not as unwise, but wise, making the most of every opportunity because the days are evil. Every single day of our life is very important to us. It should be very important to us. Therefore, do not be foolish, but understand what the Lord's will is. I believe God has every single day of our life. I believe He has something brand new for us every single day. Whether you're sitting in this room, whether you're watching by Facebook Live, or you're listening by EV Radio, God has something in plan for our lives every single day. Now, I know we all want those days of relaxation. I like them too. And we need those. Sometimes the most spiritual thing we can do is take a rest. Don't misunderstand me. But even in that, God has it planned. And I call him Big Dave. Big Dave in Life Group this morning, he was talking in the Life Group room. He's facilitating. He was talking about creation. And on the seventh day, God rested. And God wants us to have those times and those opportunities. But the problem is, most of us that are sitting in this room, watching by social media, or listening by radio or a podcast at some point later on, most of the ones that are hearing what I'm saying to you right now, this morning, most of us, our lives are hijacked. Our lives are hijacked. Now, you don't hear quite as much about it in the airline industry as you used to, but many of you all can remember back into the 70s and maybe the early 80s of airline hijacking. Now you more so hear of carjackings, cars and trucks becoming hijacked. And hijacking is the act of an outside force that is seizing control of another entity. So what happens when one is hijacked, it means that you're overtaken by an outside force. Most of the time, that outside force is beyond yours or my control. Typically, when a hijacking occurs, what a hijacking does is takes you off your intended journey and takes you in a totally different direction, oftentimes into a place or into a direction that you really don't want to go or hadn't planned to go to start with. So many times our lives are hijacked. Our lives are hijacked. We live in a society that's abiding in stressing rather than blessing. Did you catch that? We're living in a society here in America that we are living in stressing rather than living in blessing. We are the most stressed generations. The generations that abide in America right now, we are the most stressed generations of Americans that has ever been known, including those that came through times of Revolutionary War, Civil War, any of the other war, including Vietnam War. We are the people. We are the generation that is more blessed. We are the generation that has more things at our fingertips than any generation before. I remember when computers, I can remember, listen, I'm not telling my age here, but I'm not quite as old as Alvin, okay? But I can remember my first computer course at Whitfield Community College, Introduction to Microcomputers, and you had this they called it black and white, but it was actually green and black screen. Dave's probably still got some of those at his shop. And you took one big old disc and you stuck it in, and that thing, it started going. And then in a minute it comes up, I think it said DOS or something came on the screen, and you pulled that disc out and you put another disc in, and then and then you put your work disc in, and then it began doing it, and then it got real advanced, and you could play Pac-Man on it or something like that. But the reality of it is, but right now, I don't have my phone in my hand, but most of us are carrying computers around in our pockets. We're carrying stuff around that was intended to make life easier, and I'm not preaching against them. I have one, and mine's about had it. Actually, mine's broke, and I need a new one, and I go crazy if I don't have it with me, and very seldom that I will leave it behind, but when I do, I just go berserk. I got to go back and get my phone. But the reality of it is, we've got cars that will almost drive themselves. In fact, there are cars that will drive themselves. We got everything we need to make life easier, but life has become more difficult, and it's more hectic now than it's ever been before for us. We've been hijacked. And because that we're hijacked, we're a society that is blessed, that is abiding in the stressing rather than living in the blessing. And recent studies have shown, the younger that you are in this room this morning, the more stressed that you are. So there's a few of you, not too many, that are more stressed than me. Some of you will figure that out while you're sitting at Cracker Barrel, you'll think about that. But our job schedules, the sports, the kids, the grandkids, we've got to be on the move. I want to tell you, honest confession, it's good for the soul, but it can be bad for the reputation, okay? But honest confession to you, it drives me crazy to sit down and not have anything to do. All of our babies are out of here. But even some of them, I think it was Zachary this morning and a few others, they were walking around with fidget spinners in their hands. Fidget spinners. I haven't bought me one yet, but I probably will. Fidget spinners. Now, are fidget spinners sinful? No. We had our own fidget spinners when I was a kid. We called them yo-yos. Duncan Butterfly, do around the world, all that stuff. We had our own fidget spinners, okay? But I can't stand it. I can't stand to be still. I can't stand just to have a do-nothing, rainy, sit around the house day. I go crazy. I can't handle it. And sometimes I find myself feeling convicted in the sense that I don't even know how to relax. I don't even know how to rest my mind. And much of that is driven by a pursuit of success. We're looking to succeed. Now, what is success? What is success? What is success? When we think about it. Success to most of us is what somebody else expects of us. Success to most of us is, well, what does the world expect of us? Or what does my family expect of me? Or what does so and so? Success. I've got to have a new Honda pickup, like a couple of unmentionables in this room. I've got to have me a new Honda pickup if I'm going to be successful in life. Instead of driving my old Ford with the rust holes and the paint peel. My Ford truck, for those of you who haven't seen it, it looks like it's been in a real bad sunburn because all the clear's peeling off of it. It looks like it spent too long out on the beach with no sunscreen. But success, we measure success by other people. And part of our problem is, that's not how God measures success at all. I struggle as a pastor sometimes. I find myself measuring success is comparing myself to the church down the road. Well, the church down the road, they're running X amount in service, but we're only running this many in service. So when I get to where I have this many in service, then I'll make success. But success is not about what somebody else says. God is not calling us to be somebody else. God is not calling us to do somebody else. God is not calling us all to replicate someone or somebody else. God is calling us to be individuals, but yet we are constantly in the pursuit of success. In a recent poll of 3,000 people, this poll was done by a psychologist. This group of 3,000 people were asked, what do you live for? What do you live for? 94% of those people said they were only living to make it through today. In other words, 94% of those 3,000 people, 94% of those people says, I'm just trying to endure today and hopefully tomorrow's going to be better. 94% of the people, that's a fairly good cross section as far as polling is concerned. But then in this research, it is said that only 1 in 5 even said they even considered themselves happy. Only 1 in 5 people, because we've been hijacked. We're looking for something else. We're looking for love in all the wrong places. We're looking for happiness in all the wrong places. We're looking for fulfillment in all the wrong places. We are full. We are full. And then we must come to the point where we begin to embrace our limitations. Now, understand that our limitations are not God's limitations, because God is limitless. And He can do great things through us and to us and with us that we can't even imagine. But with you and I, we need to understand that we do have physical limitations. We live in a world that's rush, rush, rush. We live in the world where I got to do. I was doing a test run I was doing a test run on my illustration at 5 minutes till 11 in my garage last night. We are rush, rush, rush. We are go, go, go. I can remember in 2002 when I was in Kenya, and we were rushing. We were there on a limited amount of time, even though it was a month. We were there for that limited amount of time, that 1 month. One of the Kenyans looked at us because we were in a big hurry to get something done, trying to get the job done. One of the Kenyans looked at us and they said, "Why are you Americans in such a rush all the time? Relax. Relax." You know, but I'm more of Larry the Cable Guy. Get her done. Get her done. Get her done now. You don't have to worry about it later. But the reality of it is that we have to understand everything is rush. We're continually taking on more and more tasks and responsibilities in every one of our lives. We're taking on more. Some of it is just the culture that we live in. Other things, some of you may not be able to ever say no. It can vary. But we are people that think, I can push just a little bit harder. I can go just a little bit longer. I can add just a little bit more to my plate. I can take on just a little bit more. And we've taken on the work of multitasking. And ladies, I want to tell you, ladies are better at multitasking than men. Proven. Scientifically. It's because ladies run on both sides of their brain at one time. Men only run one side at a time. That's true. And we take on multitasking more and more and more. Sister Sarah, she can watch TV, read a book, be on the computer, and listen to me all at the same time. Me, it's one thing at a time. That's good enough for me. I can't do it all. Walking and chewing gum, not at the same time. They don't work. And then we get up earlier and we stay up later. And most Americans are experiencing sleep deprivation. And we find ourselves that because we do that because we simply think that we can redeem the time. We can redeem the time. But listen, every single one of us in this room, every single one watching, every single one of us has 168 hours a week. That's it. And whether you realize it or not, even if you're suffering sleep deprivation, most people spend the majority of that 168 hours sleeping. Every week. Well, that's all we have is 168 hours. Listen, time can't be stretched. It can't be borrowed. It can't be stored up. Listen, time is a gift from God. Of all the gifts that we receive from God, this is the one thing that He shares equally with every single one of us, or one of the things I should say that He shares equally with every single one of us. We have 168 hours a week. When your allotted time is up, it's over with. You can't buy any. Unless you're like Hezekiah and you turn yourself to the Lord, and maybe He'll extend your days. But really you can't earn any more time. You can't be stretched, it can't be shared, it can't be stored. Listen, time is unstoppable. You may pull the stem out on your watch. You may take the battery out of it. You may lay it down under your truck and run over it and mash it to smithereens. We can unplug the clock at the back of the sanctuary. We can do all kinds of things. But the reality of it is nothing that we do can stop time. Nothing stops time. Nothing stops time. What happens with time? Our bodies grow old, our sight goes dim, and our hearing fades away. And I heard a man say just the other day that there's two significant signs of old age. The first one is losing your memory. And I don't remember what the second one was. But our bodies fade away. Phyllis Diller, many of y'all remember the comedian Phyllis Diller. Phyllis Diller said, maybe it's true that life begins at 50, but she said then everything else starts to wear out, fall out, or spread out. She said, do we have any idea of how we use our time? In the average day, we burn a lot of time. In an average day, we spend 8.2 hours working. On average American. 7.6 hours sleeping. 5 hours we spend involved in sports, leisure, hobby type things, which is 21% of our time. We spent 1.1 hours eating per day. Some of you looking at me and you say, you apparently spend more time than that. The remaining 2.1 hours is what we take to do our chores and other responsibilities on average. The average American will spend 13 years of our lives watching TV, or now computers, or watching our cell phone, watching some type of visual media device. We will spend 13 years of our life doing that. We will make in our lifetime, the average American will make 1,811 trips to McDonald's. But if Mike Dillo does it, it's just for his grandkids. Because he don't eat McDonald's. The average American will consume 109,354 pounds of food in their lifetime. That has nothing to do with time, but I thought, that's a lot of food. So we are consumed. We are consumed. That's why they call us consumers. So we begin to adjust our priorities. In August of 2015, just a little bit over a year ago, almost 2 years ago, Forbes magazine published an article indicating that Americans are choosing wealth over their health. They're choosing wealth over most any other thing in their life. Now, wealth is more than just money. Wealth is material possessions. We're all out to accomplish more, to gather more wealth. We're out to that has become the most important thing in American life. In a separate article but in the same year, 2015, it held that sports is held as the number one priority of Americans. More important than anything else. More important than eating. Sports is more important. More important than family. Sports is more important. Listen, I love watching my grandkids participate. I think it's good. I think there's advantages to it. But let me tell you something. Sports has become the gods of children in America. And our time is, and our grandkids are at that age now where one's at one ball field and the other one's at the other ball field at the same time, and you're trying to decide which one to go to, or you're trying to run back and forth to both, or you're trying to text pictures from one to the other place, and what have you. And sports is consuming America. Let me tell you this, I'm not complaining. Your council, your leadership here will tell you I've never complained. They've even asked me, and I said I don't have any complaints. I thank the church for what they blessed me with in a salary package. But let me tell you, we live in a society when I hear people ripping on preachers that make a high dollar salary, that have large ministries, but they never say a word about a baseball player that's making $3 million a year. Or someone that's in the military that's making $25,000, maybe $30,000, or maybe a police officer that's making $25,000, $30,000, maybe even $40,000 a year. But you have a pro football player that has a $5 million contract, and they can't stay out of jail long enough to even meet the terms of their contract. We live in such a world today. And we live in such a world that Bible reading has occurred. Only 27% of believers, Christian believers, only 27% of them in 2015 said they read their Bible on a regular basis. Hello. Christian assembly, attending church, attending a small group, a house church, gathering together, has almost come abnormal. Because 51% say they never attend church. They never attend a small group. They never attend a Bible study. They never attend any type of Christian assembly. The average maximum length time when they do is 1 hour per week. We're seeker friendly. You come to our church and we start promptly at 10, we end promptly at 11. We only want to keep you an hour because we know you're busy, you don't have enough time for us, you don't have enough time for God, is what they're saying. While at the same time, we are consuming 34 hours of screen time per week. TV, computer, iPad, iPod, tablet, phone. So we give 34 times more over to the other entertainment than we do in giving our attention to the Lord, perhaps. So we realize this morning that priority adjustments are the order of the day. We need to think about our relationship with God. We need to think about who we are with God, but that is part of the reason, if not the reason, that we're living under the stressing rather than living under the blessing. I love the way Eugene Peterson paraphrased Matthew 6. Eugene Peterson paraphrased Matthew 6, 28 through 34 this way. He says, has anyone, by fussing in front of the mirror, ever gotten taller by so much as 1 inch? And I'm saying, get a life. Who in the world could want to get any taller than me? 5'4.5", if I got my shoes on. Has anybody, listen, I have never stood in front of the mirror and fussed about trying to get taller, okay? I honestly haven't done that. Have there been times in my life that I would like to be taller? Yes, absolutely, especially if you go to the restaurant and they seat you at one of those high top tables. I had to rescue my wife from one of those just last week. But nobody's ever got taller by fussing about it. All this time and money wasted on fashion. Do you think it really makes that much difference? Quite honestly, all of the effort, all the stuff that we do, all the stuff that we pursue, And I don't necessarily mean to be railing on kids' sports this morning, but do you realize the effort that we, and I include myself as a grandparent, the effort that we put into sports for our kids? Do you realize the opportunity of them ever becoming a paid professional athlete is like less than 1%? While the opportunity of them dying up and not being saved and going to hell far exceeds that, because we're not indoctrinating them with the gospel of Jesus Christ, and we don't take them to church, and we don't teach them the Bible, and we don't learn them the ways of God. Sports are good. I like it. I love it. I love when my granddaughter played tackle football last fall, and she got out there and she just got up against some old big boys and had that ponytail out the back of her helmet, and she just stuck it right in there with all of them, you know. I love it. Don't misunderstand me. But there's some things in life that's more important. There's some things in life that are more important to me than just trying to have a new Honda truck like other unmentionable people in this room. There's some things more important to me than having more friends on my Facebook friend list than anybody else, any of my other friends do. There's some things that are more important to me, and that there's some things should be more important to me, and that is God. So what difference does it make about a fashion? What difference does it make? He said, instead of looking at the fashions, walk out in the fields and look at the wildflowers. Go out and look at what God is doing. Look and see what God is doing among you. They never primp or shop, but have you ever seen color and design quite like them? The 10 best dressed men and women in the country look shabby alongside them. If God gives such attention to the appearance of wildflowers, most of you which are never seen, don't you think He'll tend to you? Take pride in you. Do His best for you. Don't you think God is able, while we're struggling and we're looking for success, don't we think that God is able to give us the success that we need? Don't we think that God is able to give our children and our grandchildren the success that they need if we bring them up in the statutes, in the oracles of God? Don't we think that God is able? He said, what I'm trying to do here is to get you to relax. You know, every once in a while, and don't misunderstand me, Sister Sarah and I, we don't argue and fuss, but every once in a while, you know, she'll look at me and she'll say, will you just chill for a minute? Will you just chill for a minute? And me, I'll just say, would you just let me talk? Would you just chill? God is saying to us, would you just chill for a minute? Would you just chill? Would you just step back from everything that's going on in your life, all the busyness of your life? Would you just chill out for a minute and step back and take a look at things from my perspective? He said, what I'm trying to do here is to get you to relax, to chill out, to not be so preoccupied with getting so you can respond to God's giving. You know, we are so occupied in our lives that we can't even respond to what God is doing for us. We are so caught up in living these lives like we're going to be here in this dimension of life forever that we can't even grasp hold of what God is not wanting to do, but is doing among us. He said, people who don't know God and the way He works fuss over these things. Hello? But you know both God and how He works. Steep your life in God reality, God initiative, and God provisions. Don't worry about missing out. Yeah, and that's us. We're scared to death. That's why if they run, you know, the other day on Main Street in Whitfield, the donut shop. If you're ever in donut, you know, they're not paying me. I don't even know who runs the place. But if you're ever in Whitfield, go by the Ole Coke shop, donut shop. They actually came out this week, Carrie. They came out with a ice cream filled cake, red velvet cake donut. That make your tongue just beat your brain to death right there in your head, you know. But if we'll take time and we'll get our attention on what God is doing, and but there's people that lined up they gave donuts away the other day. They had a donut eating contest, and I think whoever won it won a dozen of donuts. But then they had all these extra donuts, and they just started giving them away, and people were shoving each other. Hey, I want some donuts. I want some free donuts. And you can just drive right up the street and buy them. Duh. But free donuts just do crazy things to people. And we get caught up. We pursue stuff. We go crazy over stuff. If we pursue God with the passion that we pursue stuff, wonder what our relationship with God would really be like. Wow. He said, don't get worked up about it. What may or may not happen tomorrow, God will help you deal with whatever hard things come up when the time comes. So here's my point. The blessing will flow out of proper prioritization. Our blessing is going to flow out of proper prioritization. And I want to show you something. I'm going to try this without making a mess. Here you are. Here I am. The fishbowl. We're full of stuff. We're full. I'll see how good some of your memories are. Because as we're full of stuff, here's what happens in our lives. When our lives get out of priority, we begin to pour. Remember, you're the fishbowl. Remind the person next to you, you're the fishbowl. And we begin to fill our lives up with all this stuff. Let me tell you something. All this stuff right here is insignificant. That's insignificant stuff. That stuff, that's okay. None of this right here, none of this sand will send us to hell. But it's really not all that important in our life. It's really not all that important in our life at all. It's stuff, if it doesn't happen, or we don't get to go, or we don't get to buy it, or whatever, or we don't get to order it off of Amazon, it's not going to destroy us. But we have a habit of filling our lives full of the insignificant stuff. And then y'all remember some of these other things, like the kids playing sports, and I didn't write them all down. Some of you may have known them. But then we begin to fill our lives up with all these other things and come along. But then we come along and say, I got to have some time in life for my job. I've got to have some time in my life for my health. I really need some time in my life for my family. I really need some time in my life for God. You see, the problem is when we don't fit things in our life in the right order, we end up not having time and not having place for the things that really are supposed to fit. And listen, the same amount of rocks, the same amount of sand, the bucket is empty. I didn't pull any tricks on you, but because it's not put in the right order, then it won't fit. It won't fit. So when we allow our lives to become filled with the wrong priorities, stress occurs. Things become abrasive. Listen, that sand is abrasive. That's why I use sand. Sand is abrasive. Sand is an irritant. And when we begin to fill our lives with the wrong stuff, we get irritable, and it becomes abrasive to us, and it cuts into us, and it irritates us. And so it is in our life. That when we get things out of order, we don't have room, because we're the fishbowl, and the things that are important in our life just simply won't fit because we have filled our fishbowl with something else. But when we get our priorities straight, when everything is made right, and we get God back in there, and we get our family back in there, and we get everything else back in here just like it's supposed to be, and then we begin stacking on the other things that's supposed to happen in our life, and the other things that are pleasures and maybe not even necessities, but we enjoy doing them, and then we begin to take all of those stresses of life and we begin to pour them back together. And we shake life down. Everything fits. Everything fits. So we find ourselves being people that are hijacked, being a people that are struggling. So do we operate our lives? Do we fill our fishbowl? Do we fill our lives with eternity as our priority? A man I love dearly, an evangelist, used to be the conference evangelist, Jimmy Hilliard. Jim used to say, repeat an old saying, only one life will soon be passed, and only those things done for God will last and last. Let me tell you something. I'm not going to take any of the sand with me to eternity. It's only the things that are contained in the rocks that go in the fishbowl, that fit in the fishbowl, that will matter. And so it is with every one of us in this room. So, you and I are the fishbowl. But do the rocks fit? Do the rocks fit? I hope you could say yes. But I'll tell you something. Every once in a while, I'll get so busy. You know, one of the I think it was maybe I don't know if it's D.L. Moody. I can't remember who said it, but it was quoted by a preacher of old that said, "If the devil can't make you bad, he will make you busy." And sometimes I find myself being so full of sand and grit and the little rocks that I can't put that the big stuff's not in there where it needs to be, and the big stuff is just hanging off top or not even room at all. And I'm the preacher. And that doesn't make me anything or anybody special, but if it happens to the preacher, I'm sure it probably happens to you all. So do the rocks fit? Do the rocks fit? Jerry, if you and Elaine will sit that back over to the side for me, please, sir. Do the rocks fit? Are we leaving them out? Leaving the rocks out. The rocks are hung out to dry. I want you to bow your heads and close your eyes for me just a moment. Every one of us in here has a tremendous responsibility of keeping our life in check. And in keeping our life in check, we find that oftentimes, you know, I think back to Proverbs and the wisdom of Solomon when he said, "Beware of the little foxes." The little foxes, because it's the little foxes that sap the vine. It's the little foxes that destroy the vine, that will come in and cut the root out of the vine. Sometimes it's just a lot of little stuff that begins to creep into our lives. And it may not even be sinful stuff, but it's stuff that fills our fish tank. It fills our fish bowl, and then we don't have room for God and family and the things that should be the most important to us. So I pray, not that I preached it, but I pray that the Holy Spirit has convicted hearts in this place this morning. He convicted my heart as I brought this message together. What do we have our lives? Are our lives hijacked, or do we have them in the right priority? Or elements of life, have they hijacked us? With heads bowed and eyes closed in this place this morning, you're not on video, so don't be nervous. It's shooting this way. Nobody's looking, so don't be nervous. I'm the only person with my eyes open. But if you're in this place this morning and you have been hijacked and you feel like that your priorities are all out of order and you realize I'm not taking the time, I don't have the time for the things that are important in my life right now because I'm consumed by everything else. If that's you, would you slip up your hand real quickly? Thank you. Thank you. A number of hands have just went up in this room. Let me ask you a question. If you're in this house and you're unsaved, or if you've backslidden on God and you've turned and you departed from Him, but you know the hour is now and it's time to come home, or you've never been saved and you need to be saved this morning, because if you're not saved, you got the wrong stuff in your fishbowl. So if you're in this room and you need to be saved or renewed in your salvation, would you slip up your hand and say, pray for me, Pastor, right now? Anybody in this room? If this is what I want you to do, I want you to, those of you that especially lifted your hands, I'm not going to ask you to come down solo because I don't want you to feel embarrassed at all, but I'm going to ask those that are willing, who are interested in coming, I'm going to ask you to come down front here to this altar and to join us. And we're going to pray. And if you raised your hand and you would like special prayer, there would be nothing more pleasing to me than for myself and some of our church family just to gather with you. And we're just believing for you in prayer. Listen, I want to tell you something. A message like this morning's message, I want you to realize this. Look at me. I want you to realize this. God brings messages like this morning for one simple reason, and that's because He loves you. He loves you. And He wants to be priority in your life, but He loves you. He loves you. And above everything else, He says that He wants you to succeed. He wants you to prosper and to be in health even as your soul doth prosper. God wants that for you. He wants nothing but good for you. So if we need to dump the fish tank out and restack everything in it, hey God, that's what we want to do. We're going to empty ourselves out before you. With those of you that raised your hand, if you so choose, and anybody else, all that will and can right now, will you come and meet me at the altar?